The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
Hey everybody, Kip Keefer, Tony Kurre with you for Keefer and Kurre Sports. We've made a little bit of a change in the title and the approach. It doesn't necessarily mean if you're tuning in for the first time since we made the changeover last week, it doesn't mean we're going to be all sports all the time. It just means the focus is going to be predominantly on sports. I'm involved in several different broadcast initiatives, but really the chance to just really, I don't know, Tony, how you'd put it, but just to be able to talk frankly about issues in sports and different things. I didn't really have a platform to do that in the terrestrial world of television and radio. So I appreciate here on your network and with you in the partner seat, the opportunity to do so and get into some really kind of meat and potatoes issues that are of interest to me. And I know you love talking sports.
Man, I did sports for 20-something years. I'm still doing sports. I worked up at ESPN, had an opportunity to go work up there and do College Game Day. So, yeah, it's always been near and dear to my heart. And sports are wonderful, wonderful things to talk about because sports are the one thing in this world, this crazy-ass world we live in, that actually bring us together. We talk about tragedies and sports. Those are the two things that happen. When they do, we forget about whether black, white, Democrat, Republican, whatever. You go to a game and you don't really care. You're just rooting for the same side, the same team.
Absolutely.
And that's a beautiful thing. And man, the passion that comes out in sports fans, and certainly in a state where we have Alabama and Auburn. I'll throw UAB in there hopefully later this year. Alex Mortensen can do something with that football team. But that's what you want to talk about today, because as a guy who's lived here since 1988, I came from Cincinnati, Ohio. The first question I got when I got here December 25th, 1988 was, who you for? And I had no clue what they were talking about. And they're like, who you for? And I'm like,
which side are you on?
Alabama, Auburn. And I was like, oh, and I did not have a clue. And I remember, and I think I shared this story before, that following season, the Birmingham Barons, I was a big Reds fan, a huge Reds fan, not so much a Bengals fan, but I mean, I was a fan because I was from Cincinnati, but they sucked so bad back in the 80s. They had the number one draft pick every year for like 20 years. It was crazy. And this Klingler and all these players they got were terrible. The Anthony Munoz years were gone. The Kenny Anderson years were gone. That stuff was way back in the 70s. And the Birmingham Barons started the season like 12-0 or 13-0 or something. And I thought, wow. And at the time, and I should be whipped for not remembering his name, Art Clarkson. Clarkson was the owner.
Yes, he was.
Very, not flamboyant, but very shrewd in his business ways, could rub you the wrong way. He got the most out of his dollar. This guy got the most. This guy knew how to wheel and deal in business. I mean, he was really good with the media. So I call him up and I said, can I come down to the Hoover Met and talk to your baseball team? He said, about what? And I said, you're 12-0. To start the season. He goes, yeah. He said, that's great. And I said, yeah, that's fantastic. And of course, I'm coming from a major league feeling. I it wasn't even football season yet, but football season was over by the time I got there. And so I went down there and started interviewing every baseball player and using those snippets on my classic rock show. On my classic rock show, hey, this is Bo, blah, 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 the Birmingham Barons third baseman. Come out and see us, da-da-da. And from that point on, obviously, I was one of Art Clarkson's favorite people. But I just remember thinking to myself, what the hell's wrong with this town? Why aren't they supporting this baseball team? I went out there for the game 13, and anyone who went to the Hoover Med, you could get in someone's head so easy because they could hear everything you were talking. If you were talking about the pitcher's mother-in-law quietly in your seat off the third base side, he could hear every word you were saying. Every word you say it. I mean, it's like everyone could hear, like you didn't want to break up with a girl at a Barons game because everyone knew it. I mean, everyone could hear it. And so I thought, what the hell is wrong with this crazy city? And then, of course, we got into something called the Birmingham Fire, which we'll talk about a little bit. But you got a couple different ways you want to go here, and we could talk all day about it. But go, baby. I love it.
Well, and what you just gave a great preface to why you're the perfect guy to have this conversation with, because like me, you came from a major league market. I was born and raised in the Washington, D.C. area. My dad was a lifetime season ticket holder to the Washington Redskins through some really brutal years. Every year he was optimistic. This is going to be the year. We got Sonny Jurgensen now. We're gonna take off. And the Redskins were always mediocre until they hired a guy who only unfortunately had one more year to live. Vince Lombardi in 1968,
Wow.
and Vince Lombardi came and transformed the Redskins in 1 year. A lot of people say to a winning team. That's not exactly accurate. They ended up 7-7, but that was a gigantic step for the Redskins. And then, of course, he contracted cancer and never coached again. But
I
that
totally
was kind
forgot
of my
about that. I totally forgot that Vince Lombardi was in Washington. You're
yeah,
right.
1 year in Washington and completely turned it around in just a remarkable situation. And who knows, had he lived, if the Redskins would have thrived. George Allen came and actually took them to a Super Bowl after the momentum that Lombardi created. But my dad was a long-suffering Washington Redskin fan. I grew up between Washington and Baltimore. My grandmother lived on Chesapeake Bay in Annapolis.
Nice.
It was just paradise for a kid. I was a Senators and Redskins fan living in Rockville, Maryland, and we'd go to the Annapolis for the weekend. And all of a sudden, I was in Orioles and Colts countries, both teams that were dominant in their sports
Yeah.
in the mid '60s. The Johnny United's and Brooks Robinsons, and it was like two different worlds. But
Wow.
we got transferred to Atlanta in the late '60s, right when Atlanta was booming. It became a major league city. The Braves, of course, had come from Milwaukee. The Hawks had come from St. Louis. The Falcons were an expansion team. College football was king, but professional sports just took Atlanta by storm. So after all that, to end up in Birmingham in the early '90s, and I've been here ever since, with the exception of 4 years. I got an opportunity to go out west. But this current stint, I came back in 2004. Here we are, 2026. I've been here 22 years this time, the longest by far I've ever lived anywhere.
Yeah.
And I continue to be kind of just baffled by the fact that this city, Birmingham, Alabama, and if you're listening to us outside the market, we're taking a little liberty today, assuming that a good majority of our listening audience is going to be really interested in the subject. And even if you're not from Birmingham, maybe you live in a place where this will be identifiable. But Tony, I just get such a I don't know, sinking feeling. It's depressing to me that this city just seems to have such a second tier kind of minor league mentality. They don't think big. They don't build facilities. If you build it, they will come. That's been true. Let me give you one other preface for this that maybe will give you a perspective of the direction I want to go. The first time I ever went to Rick Woods Field was with the late great Ben Cook, who was a baseball fanatic. He was Herb Lynch's partner on the radio. Ben loved baseball more than anything in the world. Ben was involved with all those guys. My dear friend now, Joe DeLeonard, is still real involved with Rickwood Field. He's a force in the sports community here. Hoping to see Joe today at lunchtime. Bottom line is, Ben took me out there. We walked around Rickwood Field, showed me all the things they're doing to preserve this historic jewel that really came to fruition last year with the major league game and national attention finally. But one thing struck me that day. They had it restored that day or that summer to how it looked in 1948. And I always loved in the old time ballparks, and you'll identify with this from growing up in Cincinnati, Crosley Field. I always loved the out of town scoreboard, which was always the games in your league. They would put the panels for the other teams in the board, and people would put the scores up as they got them reported. Nothing was electronic back in those days. But looking at that scoreboard, it really struck me. It had all the other Southern League games from whatever day they restored it to. And the other Southern League markets, Tony, were Atlanta, Charlotte, Nashville, Orlando, New Orleans, Little Rock, all of these, Memphis, all of these cities, Knoxville, Nashville. Maybe I already mentioned them. But it just struck me. I said, all of these teams that were the absolute the Southern League members, along with Birmingham, almost every one of these cities now have major league sports. What the hell happened to this market? I always think about that. Looking at Atlanta and Orlando and Nashville and New Orleans, these were all cities on par with Birmingham at the time. And here we are 50, 80 years later, and Birmingham's made no progress in the sports realm at all, in my opinion. I mean, how do you respond to that, and what's your opinion on why we have this minor league mentality?
A lot of people have talked about great points around the whole clock. A lot of people have said that it's not that we don't support a national or a professional game here in this town, is that the league doesn't support the city. And that is to say, for example, the Birmingham Iron. Do you know that we had a Birmingham Iron? I didn't even know it was the Alliance.
I remember the name. That was one of those fly-by-night leagues.
The Alliance of American Football back in 2019. I don't remember that. That was 7 years ago, but only lasted 1 year. Fortunately for me, anyway, the World League of American Football. I remember that being a lot bigger than it actually was. It only lasted 2 years here. The Maloof family, of course, who owns the Palms and owns the Sacramento Kings, or owned the Sacramento Kings, Philip Maloof. I actually went out with his sister Adrian for a while. There was a situation there where I would hand out tickets if I would go out. Anyway, it's a different story for a different time. A lot of people call her Peg Bundy because she had really high hair and built like Peg Bundy too. Anywho, the Malou family, that's, if you saw the yellow Lamborghini, you knew that Philip was in town. He was the only one with a yellow Lamborghini in the city of Birmingham, and he was always hanging out down Bottega and stuff. But they really tried to put some money behind it. I mean, we had Eddie Money playing concerts and Ronnie Millsap doing shows afterwards. And of course, it was down at Legion Field back in the early 90s, which at that time, Legion Field was still, it was the old gray lady, but it still had some reverence to it. It still, had some historical value to it. Now they just swap $600,000 worth of paint on it every single year. I don't even know why it's still standing. But there was a point in time, and I don't know if it was the Maps era. Remember the Maps thing? That kind of, for some reason, it always goes back to Maps, and I don't definitively remember the exact year of Maps. It was probably mid to late 90s, where we had this vote where we were going to add a 10-cent tax or whatever, and there was so much, and we were going to build a stadium, we were going to build an outdoor facility, we were going to build all these different things, and then, of course, we had to add all this pork to it. We had to bring $80 million to the schools, and we had to make everybody happy, and so it turned into this $500 million thing turned into this like $4 billion thing, where everyone, well, I want that, well, I want this, well, I want sidewalks in my place, and I mean, even Joe down the street was getting his Dairy Queen on the corner because that's what he wanted, or else he wouldn't get a vote for it, of course, and the big reason was gambling. The Maps thing was all about the gambling thing. And so it tried to encapsulate this large thing. I would venture to guess that it was the same as maybe proposing to get an Olympics in your town. If you propose to get an Olympics in your town like Atlanta did, you have to totally think from the inside out. Your mass transit, everything from the airport, hotels, I mean, everything changes. You look at Atlanta as their GPD the year before 1996 and the year after, 3 times. I mean, it went off the board, but they had to do everything. The Max was built, the MARTA, it was crazy. And they pulled it off. Unfortunately, there was a bombing there too. But at some point, I remember thinking to myself that we were right around neck and neck with Atlanta. And you were talking about that. You were saying the 60s. Certainly in the 60s, they've always been
the airport decision really set everything in place, because Birmingham was who the airlines and the transportation industry wanted Birmingham to aggressively try and attain the airport, because from a geographic standpoint, it made more sense.
Yep.
But Atlanta just left Birmingham in the dust. And bottom line is, Tony, the Birmingham mentality, going right back to what I said, well, we don't want to be a big thriving metropolis. I mean, that's not what we want. Why don't we want that?
Well, you and I coming from major league sports, and again, perfect example. Sometimes we don't want that. I mean, I think some people, we got to be careful what they wish for. I like going to Atlanta to visit. I had an opportunity to go to work there about 5 years ago. Oh hell no! I do not have a soft spot in my. I love to visit there. I love to go see an Atlanta Braves game. I go to Hawks games. I go to Falcons games. But to live in Atlanta, no. I mean, there's people sleeping on the side of interstates. I realize it's a first class city, and I know they had the Olympics and stuff. But little Birmingham, we don't want all the lights. We want just enough to make it, And I think that's because maybe there's so many different ways we can go here. We had this group of young urban professionals, Vince Thompson, Gene Hallman, and they were trying to push Birmingham forward, and there were just too many old people that didn't want to have to do anything with it. I think that's where our window shut. That's where our door shut. I don't know exactly what year that was. I don't know. It's when Hartsfield opened up in Atlanta, or I don't know if it was because of Major League Sports. But I will say, whenever you have something here in town, and it was funny, I was going back. So we got the Squadron, which is gone now. They're now out of Kenner, Louisiana. They're gone.
Well, I had not been enlightened on that, but I'm not surprised.
They're the New Orleans Pelicans G1 League, so it makes sense there. The Birmingham Bulls, which is still in operation, still getting it done out at the Pelham Civic Complex out there, and they've got their thing. They've been going on forever. The Birmingham Barons, which... good for them. Jonathan Nelson no longer there. I loved him, but now they have a brand new GM. It's doing fantastic work. He is really working to revive. They're in that area. The ballpark's been open now for quite some time. The newness is worn off. It's still beautiful.
It's a really great facility.
It's a great facility. You can do parties and all kinds of things there, and it's a great place to see a ball game. And regardless of whether they're doing well or not, it really doesn't seem to play into whether their attendance.
Well, they won 2 straight championships.
I know.
If that means that was news to me. I didn't hear much chatter on the street last year. The Barons are about to win the Southern League Championship.
Never knew about it. And it's funny because you said build it and they will come. Everyone thought that when Protective Stadium
I got thoughts on that too.
The UAB Blazers averaged 436 more people in the first year of Protective Stadium than they did in the last year at Legion Field.
Which is pathetic.
436 people. And people say, well, hell, even if the team sucks, I'll go because that's going to be a brand new stadium. It's going to be a nicer part of town. It's going to be near Uptown, this, that, and the other. They didn't show. They didn't show up. And and this is when Bill Clark was there, for God's sakes. This is when they were going to bowl games. It was, they had everything. And then you throw out the winning situation. What the Stallions win? Stallions won 3 straight championships, correct, with Skip Holtz?
Yep.
This is their attendance from 2023, 7,998. 2024, 10,255. 2025, they lost 1,300 fans, 8,794. In 2026, they had 16,000 at their opening game. A lot of that probably had to do with A.J. McCarron being the head coach. Yeah, because Alabama fans, they knew exactly what they were doing.
And now for the first time, they're not good.
And now they're not good. So now you got a coach that everyone loves because he's a national championship, but the team sucks. And so
but let's talk about Protective Stadium for a minute.
Yeah.
It was new. It was in a ambitious part of a project situation. The Uptown concept, bars, restaurants, nice hotel, right downtown, all that. But Tony, to me, Protective Stadium is another example of exactly what's wrong with this community's mentality. Yes, the stadium's okay, it's nice enough, but let me tell you, in Texas and in Georgia and in some other places, there are high school stadiums now built that are far more elaborate than Protective Stadium. Protective Stadium is just a basic, outdoor, limited. I mean, it's got what's its capacity? 40,000 or something. I think it is.
I don't know if it's that much.
But that's not what we needed to build. We needed to build a dome facility. We've got the SEC headquarters right here. There's no reason if you built a state-of-the-art stadium that would seated 65,000 people, was all weather all year. That would have facilitated concerts, facilitated huge basketball. I mean, yeah, they did renovate the BJCC, and it is nice.
It is nice.
It's not
Yeah.
it's not spectacular, but it's
a lot nicer
it's
than it
nice
was.
for Birmingham.
Yeah.
And we're gonna get some regionals, and we're gonna get some first round NCAA, but we still don't have the facility. I think Protective Stadium, and this is a bad example, but just to give you kind of a range here, I think it cost $50 or $60 million to build Protective Stadium. At the same time, the same summer, SoHi Stadium in Los Angeles opened. It's a $5 billion stadium. Now, I'm not suggesting that Birmingham needed to go that route because that would have been outrageous, but 50 million to 5 billion, that is a hell of a difference. And I just think it's just typical of our, oh, this is a nice stadium, this will be good, but it's we just don't have any people that think big. And the real theme I want to get into with you too is I'm getting ready to go to an event in a little while where a lot of people that are really into Birmingham sports, always say, well, how come we never see you at a Stallions game? You need to be more involved in the community and get into the sports thing. They like shame you in, you live here, therefore you need to participate in what we want you to participate in. I did some research on the Birmingham Stallions, Tony. Do you realize there is not one person with any ties to Birmingham whatsoever involved in the ownership of that team? The team is predominantly owned by the league, the UFL. The predominant people that own the team are two equity firms, one in Chicago and the other one in California. Also, the Fox Corporation itself, since it's just basically a soundstage for a TV entity. You don't have any local ownership here. There's no real ties to the community.
True.
It's just a TV product, and that's why you see it on Fox and ABC and whatever. They are trying to ride the coattails of football into a year-round situation. That's why you've got so much momentum in college football right now to create NFL 2, which is going to be, the most recognizable brands in a lot of sports. The Texas Longhorns, the Alabama Crimson Tide, the Ohio State Buckeyes, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. These are, absolute epic, iconic names in sports. So if you have another league that's cast in more of a professional light that is going to be involved in that, that's going to give that stronghold. That's going to make this UFL stuff completely obsolete because, the Houston Gamblers and the Birmingham Stallions and the Louisville Kings, those aren't brand names. It's just a fake product. So my question to you is, just because I live here and involved in sports, does that obligate me to support something that I just think is second rate in Bush League?
Birmingham Fire, Birmingham Barracudas, Birmingham Thunderbolts, Birmingham, we had the Blasters there for about a day, Birmingham Iron, and of course,
Didn't they have a Canadian Football League team for a while?
The Canadian Football League, yes. As a matter of fact, that was the Barracudas back in 1995. And don't forget the Steel Dogs, which was around for
Steel Dogs.
Now, the Steel Dogs. We had arena football.
We need a museum.
I tell you what,
I'm
I'm itching for some arena football right now because that has not gone away. That was around for 8 years. Remember, Bobby Humphrey was the coach for the Steel Dogs. We had some local
Tony,
stuff.
we need to open a Birmingham obsolete sports museum. That would be a really off the wall place to have.
Yeah, don't ever tell me that I didn't need to support anything. I went to the I went to the World Game.
I want to get your opinion because you have been supportive in Birmingham. You still support UAB heavily. I don't think that you've been treated very well in a lot of those circles, but that's just my opinion, and I'll keep it to myself.
That's fair.
You're still front and center. You go to UAB events and games, and you promote UAB as much as anybody in town.
Do you want to know why I go to UAB games? Well, first of all,
I know affordability is a big part.
Affordability is a huge part of it, but also the lack of affordability. A lot of people will say that because we have Auburn and Alabama, maybe so Alabama more than Auburn because Alabama's only 45 minutes down the road. Auburn's a good 2 hours down Highway 280. They're saying because, and you really can't use Auburn anymore because they've been non-existent the last 15 years since they won a national title. But Alabama certainly, unless Kalen DeBoer doesn't get his ass up and do something. I know the Legends probably going to be chomping at the bit again this weekend on the starting lineup. But if Alabama is playing Alabama football, a lot of people will say that we don't have enough disposable income in order to support a professional town when you have an Alabama squad that's now getting $200-$300 a ticket for Saturday games at Bryant-Denny when they're playing Middle Tennessee State, which I think is really interesting because the BJCC, and I know people work for the BJCC. I like these people who work for the BJCC. They're friends of mine, but they give you the royal screw-over job. The one thing that I loved, and I'll tell you right now, the reason why there's only 436 more people protecting than were at Legion Field are the prices. I love the fact that I could go to a ball game, get in for 10 or 15 bucks, and then get a couple of hot dogs, a couple of drinks, a couple of beers, or whatever it costs me, 15 bucks, and now you're getting a bottle of Smart Water, and it was $9 last time I went to, $9 for a bottle of water. It's ridiculous. It's like, how high can we go? It's almost like the Live Nation thing, and they're mocking us. Let's see how much we can charge for this to see if they'll actually pay for it. And, you're talking about uptown, inner city, your small social-economic black family that's having a difficult time just trying to find something to do on a Saturday is going to take them to BJCC and drop $100 on hot dogs? No. I mean, it's from a fan standpoint, and of course, UAB has nothing to do with that. Most of the teams that play down there, the Stallions have nothing to do with it. It's all the BJCC. They control all of the things, and they're like, well, we built it. We get to charge what we want. And that goes for the Coca-Cola Amphitheater as well. The Coca-Cola Amphitheater out there with live concerts. A lot of people, you don't go to concerts to eat food. Don't get me wrong. But a $12 beer is ridiculous. I mean, you better drink up and have a good time.
Yeah, their cost on that's like 75 cents. I mean, how do you charge $12 for a beer?
It's ridiculous. And I used to pay it. I'm so glad I don't drink anymore. It saved me $1 million a year. But yeah, I think that's one of the things. Most people will tell me they don't want to go down to Protective because it's going to cost them $30 to park.
Yep. And not close either.
Not even close. And it's going to cost them $100 to, like, you want to eat? You're down there for 3.5 hours. You got to have a pretzel or something. You have to have a snack. I mean, I guess they will let you bring some things in, but that just pisses me off because we get mocked and we get strained. We get gouged.
Yeah, the last game I went to, and it wasn't in Birmingham, but the pretzel was $8.95.
I was at Santo, God love him, he loves to try new things. We went to the World Games. And
my God. See, that's another event. They made a big deal about.
I knew you were. That's why I brought it up.
3,000 days till the World Games.
Unfortunately,
I wish it was 30,000.
Unfortunately, I was not in the sports realm of radio broadcast anymore because I could have gotten free tickets. So I paid price for tickets. And tickets they had this parachuting thing where dudes would jump out of a helicopter, right, with a parachute, and they'd skip across the water, and they had to skip 3 times and see who went the farthest. It was the goofiest, craziest.
Like a rock.
Yeah, like a rock. Yeah, they may have been called the skip and rock contest. And that was kind of fun because you could see the helicopter flying around. Some dude in a parachute was coming out. $46 a ticket out of Barber Motorsports. And I'm thinking, I got to be the only dumbass here paying $46 a ticket to see it.
For a wide variety of sports.
But I wanted to support them, and guess what? They lost their ass. The World Games lost their ass. They said that they sold like 36,000 daily tickets. Well, 35,000 of those went to the people that work for the city of Birmingham. I got news for you because they didn't sell any tickets at all.
We read about 2 weeks out the list of events, and it was the most bizarre list of things. It was inconceivable how bizarre that whole event was.
I would be interested to ask a vote. I mean, we should do this. Maybe we'll do it on the website, the starting lineup, or somewhere we can do a poll. What percentage of people watching this show right now want a professional team, and what percentage want to keep Birmingham the way it is? I will say this. The last 10 years in this town have been pretty amazing. I mean, and I'll go back 15. The uptown area is blown up. They have, put a lot of money into the BJCC. I will say that I've been to Memphis. I've been to Nashville. The BJCC from the outside and the inside is as nice as anything I've been in. Just from when you walk in with the escalators, I think it's beautiful. I think it's fantastic. Now, maybe it's because it looked so bad before. UAB is putting $6 million into Bartow Arena for what it's worth, but that's supposed to be a nice little nugget. Of course, that'll be for UAB fans. So I'm glad they're at least doing some upgrades on some of these things. And we do have a stadium that had Garth Brooks and had the World Games Fallen Games. And yeah, we had Lionel Richie playing a concert there, blah, 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 blah. And I hope they can bring some more of that stuff.
How old's Lionel now? 87?
Jeez, and he's not very good live. 47,000 seats that holds, by the way, Protective Stadium. And you brought
I cheated him out of
you brought up a great point. If you're going to build a 47,000 seat stadium, why?
Yeah, open air.
Yeah, there's no reason to build a 47,000 seat stadium unless you plan on selling out a 47,000 seat stadium.
Yeah.
And you did that with Garth Brooks. I think that's the only thing that's ever sold out down there. So it was like they didn't want to do 25,000 because it sounded too small, and no one would go to a 25,000 because you're right. There are stadiums in Texas that are that big for high school teams. They couldn't afford it.
Georgia, they just built a 52,000 seat high school stadium with luxury suites.
I know it. They couldn't afford to go 60,000 because, okay, if we build 60, we got to bring some big time acts in. And they should have gone all the way because for another $100 million, they could have got it done. So they built this weird 47,000. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of a horse that's 7 or 8 to 1. I love those 8 to 1s, 9 to 1 horses because I'm getting some good value, but they never win. Ever win. The 23 to 1s win, and the 1 to 2s, and the 2 to 1s, and 3 to 1s win. But if you're looking for that one for good value, there's a reason why it's kind of like a 5-point line in football. It's that middle line. It doesn't really mean anything.
Is that a real goal in life? I just want to be moderate. I just want to be average. I want to be moderate. I want to be ordinary. I don't understand the mentality of this city. Let me give you a nugget that I learned this morning that blew me away. I just happened to come across it. Right now, do you know what the number one city in America is for entry-level job opportunities? Birmingham, Alabama. Right now is the number one ranked city by the business community of the entire country of people having opportunities for opening jobs coming out of school or whatever. The income of those, San Jose is number 3, California. The average starting salary in Birmingham is only like $62,500 for these entry-level jobs. San Jose is more like $185,000, but the cost of living here compared to there is like, unbelievably comparable in the favorable category for Birmingham. But that's going to mean, and I've had people tell me, there seems to be a lot more traffic here than there used to be. We are starting to get an influx of people, not only Yankees bailing out from the north because it's a hellhole up there and they tax them to death, although Alabama needs to look at their taxation. Our surrounding states, there's no income tax and other things. Alabama has all kinds of opportunities to grow. A lot of people are starting to discover that we're actually here and on the map. But as you get an influx of more young people coming from these bigger markets and these major universities, aren't we going to reach a point where they're going to say, I'm not staying here. This town has this second class mentality. And I think Birmingham has got such a great opportunity. I just wish we had dynamic leaders who could see the possibilities and make Birmingham into what it can be. And maybe I'm just, preaching to a crowd at Protective Stadium of about 7,000. But
where's Larry Langford? I mean, Larry was a knucklehead and he did some things. But
Larry was a dreamer. Larry thought big. Larry thought everything.
He was the one that wanted to bring the beluga whale. Man, he wanted to before Atlanta got their big aquarium.
Absolutely.
And now I look at that. We must be moving in some right direction because right now, if someone said we're building an aquarium in Birmingham, I would be really, really happy. I've traveled all over the Southeast to look at them in Knoxville. There's smaller cities than ours. That's not that far-fetched. That's not that far-fetched. Yeah, exactly. Chattanooga, of course, that's more of a touristy type of thing, and they get a lot of tourist dollars, a lot outside. That's not that far-fetched of a thing to sit there and say, it's beyond the McWayne Center, which I love, but I'm like, whatever, the McWayne Center. I'm not going to McWayne Center. But 15 years ago, that would have been a long shot. So let me ask you this, and we got to get going. Give me one professional franchise that you think would make it here if they decided to expand? Major League Baseball, NFL, NHL, NBA. Which out of those four do you think would be most productive here in Birmingham, and which one would you support? Or would you support any of them? If we had an NHL hockey league, we're not going
Absolutely.
to. But I'd be all in on anything it was.
I tell you, as the spectator sport, going to a hockey game is not even comparable to some of the others. Hockey is such a great in-person sport. You cannot appreciate it on television like you can. And Birmingham and Huntsville, Alabama. Huntsville is a major hockey hotbed.
By the way, the playoffs are fantastic, by the way, right now.
Oh gosh, yeah, it's unbelievable.
It's been unbelievable. And I, when you're talking about cities to move in, I know Huntsville is blowing up. A lot of it has to do with obviously the space thing is blowing up. Huntsville is relatively clean. There's a lot of land up there.
Well, that's why Legend keeps looking to Elon Musk and say, "Come down here and build SpaceX Stadium for us, or the SpaceX basketball arena in Alabama."
No doubt.
We'll put your picture and everything all over it. But Huntsville, Birmingham. I mean, a hockey team here, and hockey's got a very good core support group. I mean, they go to the Pelham Civic Center right now, which was not built for professional sports. It was built to facilitate amateur hockey and ice skating sessions. Yeah. They got 3 different rinks.
No, it looks like a roller rink.
Exactly, but they have enlarged the biggest one to now have about 2,200 seats, and it's packed every game. I mean, there is a core group there, and I love hockey myself. I experienced it in Atlanta when the Atlanta Flames were an expansion team when I was in high school, and then also now living the dream with my sons out in Las Vegas, because the Las Vegas Golden Knights in just 8 years have already won a Stanley Cup and have been prominent in the playoffs every year. And hockey in Las Vegas, which is the last place you'd think hockey'd be.
Right.
Hockey is so popular, Tony. They built the T-Mobile Arena. They're going to have an NBA team pretty soon. The sports expansion in Las Vegas with the Raiders, and now the Oakland A's are going to be there year after next. They're building another facility right on the Strip where the old Tropicana Hotel was. I mean, Vegas is a great example of a city that's finally embraced professional sports. And, you got to start somewhere. I reject the argument that, professional sports will never make it here because Alabama and Auburn are so huge. There is this just in. Georgia Bulldog games in Athens are sold out every single Saturday, and so are Falcons games. And the Braves have their own stadium out in the suburbs, which is just an amazing phenomenon, and they're packed every night. Professional and college sports, there is plenty of room on the menu for a variety of options. But, again, I have a hard time being accused by people of not being supportive of the city because I'm not supportive of second-rate, made-for-TV football products. Yeah. If the UFL was affiliated with like NFL teams or had any kind of ties, that's why I can stomach minor league baseball, although I really don't have a lot of interest in going to games. But at least they're affiliated with a major league team, and you're seeing potential future stars being developed right here. But these random leagues, I'm sorry. I don't apologize for not being, you've lived here all these years and you're not supporting our teams. Well, they're not teams that I have any interest in supporting.
No, and the average length of those teams is about 3.5 years. So,
exactly.
I mean, why am I going to support something that's going to only be around?
They were going to move the Birmingham team who had won 3 championships at the end of last year. They said, Birmingham's going to move to somewhere in Pennsylvania.
And how appropriate that they came out and it was someone leaked that they were going to be moving the team. It was a done deal. And then all of a sudden it was also leaked, if we can sell 1,000 season tickets, perhaps we'll stay. Well, that was a nice little ploy. Maybe they should do that for UAB football.
But I've got a lot of friends that go down there and paint themselves and are shirtless for the games and tailgate all day.
They just don't eat or drink.
Yeah, well, they do it out in the parking lot for UFL games. I just can't embrace that. And
No.
if that makes me an ugly Birminghamite, obviously the women of Birmingham already have voted me in that category. So I will go ahead and step up and accept my designation.
Stallions played
I
this.
can't get into minor league sports. I'm sorry.
Stallions played this past Saturday night, and my son called me about a half an hour before kickoff. He said, "You want to go see the game tonight?" And I was like, "What game?" He said, "The Stallions." I said, "No, it's hot. It's Saturday night." I said, "No, I'd rather." And you could watch it on television. So I was like, "Forget it." But I don't know. Maybe it's. I would love to see an NBA team come to town.
Yeah, I think that would be.
I think we'd support that. I know
That would work.
whenever we always have an exhibition game every single year, and it does really, really well here. I just think a lot of people are tired of sinking their money into something because we are a loyal fan base here. We're a loyal fan base, sometimes to a fault. We stick with something, and we don't want our teams leaving. And we've had too many times where they pulled the red carpet from underneath our feet, just as we've stepped out on it.
And still,
it
per
sucks.
capita, the number one sports betting market in the country.
Yeah, still. Absolutely. So it is. Good stuff, my friend. We got to go. We got the starting lineup coming up here. The Birmingham Racecourse and Casino. Fantastic clients. Of course, do a wonderful job. The BJCC. I always say the BJCC. The Birmingham Racecourse Casino. And I'm talking to you guys don't sell $9 beers. You can actually get a beer a lot cheaper at the Birmingham Racecourse. A lot cheaper. Birmingham Racecourse Casino.
A cold long neck. I think it's $1.75 right now.
$1.75. That's what I'm talking about, brother. So get down there to the Birmingham Racecourse Casino and check it out and watch the starting lineup. 10:30, 11 o'clock. Football season will be here. We got to be getting close to 100 days, right? We're about 105.
Yeah, we're
106
down.
days.
I think it's 100. It'll be 105 days this Saturday. So
we're gonna get after it. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate y'all. See you this weekend.
All right, Tony, the ugly Birminghamite signing off.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.